Imagine you have everything a person could point to as proof that life has gone right. A royal name, a powerful family, a city that listens when you speak, and children who fill your halls with noise. Then imagine turning that blessing into a weapon. Because the tragedy of Niobe is not that she loses what she loves. The tragedy is that she dares to measure the gods like a scoreboard, and she says it out loud. This is the story of Niobe, the queen who believed her fortune made her untouchable, and the moment the universe reminded her what pride really costs. Niobe is a queen of Thebes, married to Amphion, a ruler tied to music and civilization in Greek myth. She is also the daughter of Tantalus, which means she comes from a bloodline already marked by a dangerous theme, people who test limits and then act surprised when limits snap back. But Niobe's life looks like the opposite of punishment. She has status, beauty, and influence, and most importantly, she has a large family, 7 sons and 7 daughters in the version we are following here. In stories like this, abundance creates a particular kind of illusion. When you have more than most people, you start to believe you deserve more than most people. And then you begin to believe the rules are for everyone else. The story turns on a public moment, not a private one. In Thebes, people gather to honor Leto, a goddess who is known primarily as the mother of 2 divine children, Apollo and Artemis. It is a simple act of reverence, incense, prayer, respect. And to Niobe, that respect feels like an insult, because it reminds her that there is a name above hers, even in her own city. So Niobe does what pride always does. She compares. Niobe speaks to the crowd and says, in essence, why honor Leto? Leto has 2 children, and I have 14. Why bow to a goddess who once had to hide and wander to give birth? Why revere someone whose story includes fear, rejection, and exile, when you can celebrate a queen who stands tall, surrounded by living proof of her success? It is not only arrogance. It is humiliation turned outward. Niobe cannot bear the idea that another figure, especially one linked to motherhood, receives praise that is not hers. And this is the key mistake. In myth, it is one thing to feel pride. It is another thing to turn pride into public disrespect for something sacred. Leto does not argue with Niobe. She does not send a warning, and she does not negotiate, because the myth is built on a harsh logic. When a mortal challenges divine order openly, the answer is not debate. It is consequence. Leto goes to her children. Apollo and Artemis are not minor figures. Apollo is light, prophecy, plague, music, and precision. Artemis is the wild, the hunt, the moon, and the cold discipline of an arrow that does not miss. And so the punishment is not random. It is tailored. Niobe used her children as proof of superiority, so her children become the target. Niobe's sons are the first to be struck, often while they are training or competing, alive with motion, confidence, and youth. Apollo's arrows arrive like certainty. In the telling, the sons collapse one by one, and the shock is that it happens so quickly, as if the world itself has decided there is no time for denial. Then the daughters are taken as well, and Artemis is the figure associated with that part of the slaughter. The myth is careful about the emotional tone. It is not a battlefield with honor. It is a demonstration of power, and the point is that human pleading does not change the outcome once the decision has been made. Niobe tries to protect them, to cover them, to hold them close, but the same hands that once counted them as trophies now cannot keep them alive. Her pride collapses into panic, and panic collapses into grief. Some versions say one child survives, sometimes the youngest. In the version we are following, the destruction is total, and that totality is what turns the story into a warning instead of a sad accident. Amphion, Niobe's husband, cannot bear it. In some tellings he takes his own life, in others he dies in the chaos that follows, but the result is the same. The palace that was once loud becomes a hollow structure with no future inside it. And Niobe, who began the story standing above the crowd, becomes something else entirely. She becomes a person who has been stripped of the one thing she thought could never be taken. This is also where the myth becomes psychologically sharp. Niobe does not simply cry and then move on. Her identity was built on comparison. When the comparison is destroyed, there is nothing left to stand on. Niobe leaves Thebes, and the story carries her toward a place tied to her origin and her shame. In the famous ending, she is turned to stone on Mount Sipylus, and yet the stone continues to weep. It is a poetic punishment. She becomes immovable, frozen in the posture of grief, as if she has been turned into a monument of her own mistake. The tears remain because the myth wants you to understand something. Even when pride is shattered, the pain does not vanish with it. And there is one last cruelty in the symbolism. Niobe wanted to be remembered for her children. She is remembered instead for losing them, and for the arrogance that invited the loss. The moral of Niobe is not simply do not insult the gods, although that is the surface layer. The deeper warning is about comparison, and how quickly it turns blessing into poison. Niobe had what many people pray for, but she could not let it be enough. She needed it to mean she was higher than someone else, and once you demand that kind of meaning, you stop seeing your fortune as a gift. You see it as a weapon. So the story draws a hard line. Gratitude protects what pride exposes. And when you build your identity on being above others, the fall is not only possible, it is inevitable. If you want the next myth explained with a clear moral, tell me which story to cover next.